maybe since I've had all these videos recently talking about religious stuff, that I just do this real quick impromptu chatter about, since I'm not religious and therefore I don't explicitly believe in God for whatever value of God or multiplex of gods you might define that as. Since I'm not a Christian, although technically I grew up Catholic, since I'm not really Christian, what do you believe in, Jody? Well, I don't really believe in anything in particular, but here's why. And I think this is really the meat of this. This is what I think a lot of you want to hear about. I think that if there exists some superior deity, there's a good chance that we in our limited human mind, our limited capacities, would have to have absolutely insane amounts of hubris to think that we somehow could even possibly understand such a creature. Like, even creature is such a limited term. It's not possible to fathom this notion of God. So I think the label I identify with closely, the most closely, is agnostic, because agnostic means he who does not know. And that's what I think. Now, here's where I go into wacky territory. You know how, like in string theory, there could be like up to 26 dimensions? I'm no expert. But there's this notion that, there could be 26 dimensions where we only know of 3, and some people call time the 4th. But, I'm talking spatial. So, if you have 4 spatial dimensions, and you look up what the shadow of a hypercube, a 4-dimensional equivalent of a cube is, think about this. A 1-dimensional line, the 2-dimensional version, cube, or a square. 3-dimensional version is a square, but pulled out to the 3rd dimension, a cube. 4-dimensional is a hypercube. Think in your head. Can you see a hypercube in your head? No, because everything that exists in your body is 3-dimensional thinking. You can never think in 4 dimensions. You can never see in 4 dimensions. But just as a person can see the shadow of a hypercube is a cubey sort of structure that morphs in a way that violates our laws of physics, really. If you look up anywhere on YouTube, for example, shadow of a cube or the shadow of a hypercube, you'll see this like cube that sort of folds in on itself. And that's a hypercube being rotated in 4-dimensional space. That's the shadow it would cast. It's like a square is the shape of the shadow of a cube with a light blasting straight on it. So, that. Now, if this thing that already violates the rules of our physical universe is only 1 dimension up, stack on 22 more layers of dimension like that. What would a 26-dimensional being, if you could even call it that, be like? It's impossible. We already can't even fathom 4, and you want to stack up to 26. And that's God. To me, that is my guess as to the closest we've ever come to going, this is what God is. And that's the problem. I know that if anything even remotely like that is true, even if it was like a 7th dimensional being, we're clueless. We'll never know. We're not able to know. It's simply outside of our ability to perceive and think, to know. The concept of knowing itself is probably too primitive to apply to this notion. So, no, I'm not religious, but if I had to say something that I might consider believing in, it is that God is so far beyond anything that we can even fathom that we can never know. And therefore, why am I worried about it? Because ultimately, while you might think that I should worry about the world of God or gods, I live in the world of men. And I'm going to quote an old movie that I watched several times, religious movie, Where the Red Fern Grows. A child was trying to catch a squirrel that went up a tree, and it was like, I prayed to God to get the squirrel out of the tree so I could get him, and he wouldn't do it. And the dad said, well, it's all fine and good that you prayed to God, but son, you got to meet God halfway. And the fundamental practice of that is what a lot of these people leaving stupid religious comments on my videos don't understand. You got to meet God halfway. So you got one foot in the world of God, you got another foot in the world of man. The problem is you're running around chirping about the world of God, but you're not living it in the world of man. Because if you were, you wouldn't be disrespecting me by coming back on my videos and pooping all over them with these comments. So, yeah, there you go. You don't want to challenge somebody who has a Christian upbringing and chose not to be after all of it. Because I swear to God, or dog, I'm going to quote Leviticus at you. I'm going to quote Leviticus. Be sure that you follow the teachings of God, which were not invalidated by Jesus' birth, and you force your daughter to marry her rapist. Have a good one.